Hi everyone, I'm Jayne at Rockin' Worms. Welcome. We're going to do another testing with the electric sifter. This time I'm going to be sifting the results of a breeder bin cycle, looking to see how the sifter does with separating out cocoons from the rest of the bedding, so I have a good idea, one, of how many cocoons my breeders are producing in a cycle, and two, if I'm selling the cocoons, will it make harvesting, collecting those cocoons faster? All right, so let's get into it. This is the sifter, the V-Lore, and I have on here the 12 mesh screen that I normally use when I sift manually. And then on top of it, I'm going to put the 8th mesh screen on top of it. And it does actually stack pretty well, these two together. So that's good. And I showed this in my initial video on the unboxing and the first trials of the mechanical sifter. So I'll link that in the description so it's easy for you to find if you want to watch it. All right, now I am going to take this material, which is from 2 breeder bins, okay? From 2 breeder bins. I've already run it once through the 12 mesh screen on the sifter itself, not the stacked green ones, just the one that came with the sifter, to get out the castings. And this is what the castings look like. And I, went through it, and I'm not seeing a lot of wisps or cocoons. So it did a good job on that. So now I'm going to see how it does with separating out the chunky bedding bits from the cocoons. So I'm going to dump it in, and we're going to turn it on. And it is going to be a little loud, I'm going to warn you. So I'm only going to run this for a couple seconds so you can see how it works. Oh, that time it wasn't loud. When I had done it earlier to get the castings into the bucket, it was quite loud. So how I clip the springs on really does matter. All right, so all I'm doing here is running this bedding through the sifting action. I'm not getting any castings out. I don't know if cameraman can get around to this side and see that. This is not a surprise to me because I already ran this material through to get the castings. I did that for the previous video, but now I'm just redoing it to see how it works with the stacking. So again, not getting castings out at this point is not a surprise. All right, I'm just gonna run this for a second. And let's turn it off and see what we've got. Okay. One of my commenters had said that he's using the metal handle of a fly swatter to kind of hook onto this and hook it onto the edge of his sifters. And he said that works really well. So I may give that a try at some point. The springs kind of tend to grab the gloves, so that's kind of annoying, but not enough for me to do anything about it. But if it is a problem with you doing the tight springs, maybe give his fly swatter trick a try. All right, I'm just going to place this aside. What I'm interested in is this material in here that went through the 8 mesh, but did not go through the 12 mesh. And let's see how much of this is cocoons. Because that's what I'm testing for. Okay. All right. Well, I would say this is pretty darn successful so far. I've got a lot of cocoons in a very little amount of bedding. So if I wanted to count these, collect these, do whatever I want to do with the cocoons, they're much easier to see and to, handle and deal with. So I'm pretty excited that this worked well. Now, what I am going to do again in the future is do this stack sifting right from the word go and not do a double sift to get out the castings and then separate the bedding. I kind of did that in the initial unboxing video, and I don't think I kind of had the process down yet, because this result is much better. All right. The other thing is, I will say the material, the bedding is much drier in this case than it was in the first unboxing video, but we're going to retest that right now, because as requested by, again, a commenter that wanted to see this. Let me just dump this back, because that's a nice thing. I can sift it again and it doesn't cost me any physical exertion, so I can redo that easily. I'm going to set up the double sifter again, because if I don't set it up and remember to put the hooks on right away, I forget, and then the top screen goes flying, which is not what I want.
Ask me how I know.
Ask me how I know, right. I've only done it a couple times. I'm learning to double check that and get a better result. Okay, this, let me do it this way so you guys can see it. This is a breeder bin. It's actually 22 days old, so past the 21-day cycle, a week past what I normally like to harvest cocoons at, but you know, that's the way life goes sometimes. And this still has the breeders in it, as you can see. Lovely breeders. Nice size breeder worms. Okay, and you can already see cocoons on the surface as I just randomly turn over the bedding. So let's take a handful. Let me get a scooper and see how this sifter does with direct from the factory breeder bin material. I'm going to turn it on right away because I don't want the worms and wisps. See how this is louder? So something, it does change. I don't know what's making it change, but I'm going to work on that. It must be some type of positioning of the two sieves, so I don't want to run this too long, but I am getting castings out over here. Can you see that, cameraman? So I'm getting good castings out. Can you see it enough? Okay. And so obviously it is sifting, even though this material is much damper than the original stuff. Let me do a little swish here so you can see it better, right? If you swirl the material around, don't have to put any pressure on it, just swirl it around, you do get more sift out. All right, let me turn this off and see what we got. Now, if I was doing this for realsies, I would sift this a bit longer to get more of these castings out and see how it does more fully with the damp castings, but you know, it's working enough. I'm going to put this down on top of the breeder bin. Now what I want to look at is the sift out, which will have the cocoons in it. And let's see what else. All right, I'm going to dump it into the bin. I had the other output in. Let me just bring this over here and see what we've got. Okay. So what we can clearly see, let me get this out of the way too so I can see. So we can clearly see is we have a lot more castings in here. That kind of makes sense because the castings are damper. So not as much of it is going through the 1/12 into the castings bucket. So I'm going to have, you know, more material to dig through, but really it's still not a lot of material to be able to go through and pick and collect the casting, or the cocoons, excuse me, the cocoons. So this, I think, is a good success. What I will experiment with is exactly how much I want to dry down the breeder bin cycle results before I do the sifting. okay? Because getting more of this material out makes the picking of the cocoons, the collecting of the cocoons easier. But even if I just stuck with this, this is pretty good, okay? And the other thing I want to mention, that the material that was drier and even what's going to be left in the breeder bin, I will still pick out those breeders, guys. I still have to pick out the breeders and put them into a new breeder bin. That still needs to be done. But any material and cocoons in here, plus this material that I sifted out from the drier, older breeder bin results, are just gonna go into my toddler tote where I'm putting all my cocoons and wisps, okay? So the fact that there are cocoons stuck to pieces of bedding in here, that there's going to be cocoons stuck to pieces of bedding in the more recent breeder bin result is okay. It's all going into the toddler tote where they can hatch and grow up and be happy there. All right? So once again, I would say that the sifter is making my life easier by making the processes I go through faster and also less physically demanding on myself. All right, so still thumbs up with the sifter. If you bought the sifter and you're using it in various ways, please continue to share what you're doing so we can all learn and, you know, maybe convince a few more people to take the rubber band off the wallet and treat themselves to a sifter themselves. Okay, so I'll see you next time. Let's keep talking. I remain in the dirt. Yours, Jayne.